Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. I've got Sashwath with me today. Happy Saturday. I hope your Saturday is fun and enjoyable, eventful, and not too crazy. Please do be safe out there when you're doing your revelries. That being said, Shashwath bought some books for us, which he's reading currently, which is there on his bookshelf, which I thought we can walk through since we have not done a book video for some time. I thought it'd be interesting to do a book video, and Shashwath can get into it. So what do you have for us today, Sashwath?
Yeah, so these are some of the newest additions to my mini library which I'm building. So I'll just quickly talk about what I aim to do with my book collection. So I've been meaning to buy books which catch my eye, or some recommendations of people I respect, and a lot of these books sort of come in through that way, and can be my professors. Like the first book is actually recommended by my professor, and this one was from a New York Times article. These two are recommendations by my older uncle. And the thing with this uncle is that if there's a book he recommends, he just buys it and gives it to me. So I don't have a chance to buy it myself. But these are the books which we'll be talking about today. So I'll let you pick which one you want me to tackle first. Oh, yeah. So... So Plagues and People. So this book was recommended to me by one of my college professors at Kriya University. I'm not going to name them in case they want to remain anonymous. This book is about how plagues shape history, how diseases and plagues, the human course of history. And
Plagues is another word for pandemic.
Pandemic, disease, how it shapes the way humans develop, technology develops, and how societal organizations change according to this. So it's a unique blend of biology as well as economics, because a lot of the time we abstract economics into something which has no relation to biology or natural sciences. And I think the problem of environmental destruction comes from that, because we sort of abstracted it and made the environment one of our tools instead of looking at it as a standalone thing which also has something to do with the way we go about things. So my uncle and I were by chance having a discussion about this today when we went for a morning dosa, and we were talking about how we are also part of the environment, and it's illogical for us to sort of say that we are this separate entity from the environment. What do you think about that?
Alan Watts very famously said that human beings have this problem. We like to imagine that we have come somewhere because of our quest to find self-identity and why we find purpose. We get into this notion of imagining that we have come from somewhere, and this whole alien theory and ancient alien theory and all is based on that we have come from somewhere. But sadly, we haven't. Like how an apple tree, he famously says, grows apples. This planet makes human beings. We are from this planet. We are a creation of this planet. Our behaviors and the way we act is all part of this planet. And we are a symbol of this planet. So all the things we do and the way we behave is not a part. It is within and part of this planet.
Yes.
Human beings being destructive is part of our evolution. It is the way we have been made by this planet. It is not some foreign thing that has come and been dropped on us from some other location. Looking at the vastness of space, and now there's this UFO fever going on right now, especially in the media, of all unidentified objects flying around. Let's not lose sight of the basic fact. We are human beings from Earth, not human beings from some other extraterrestrial land.
Yes, definitely. And this was the first book. If you guys want to take a look at it, it's Plagues and Peoples, William H. McNeill. I haven't really read it yet, but definitely an interesting topic.
One second. And it's important to read this book. I'll tell you why. If you see the history of plagues and pandemics, the time span between one to the other is getting shorter and shorter. So you thought now that COVID has happened, this pandemic has happened, the next one's going to be 100 years away? No. 50 years away? No. The way the world is working now and the way human beings move around this planet, the next plague could be as short as away from 5-6 years away from us. So do keep yourself abreast with information such as this, how to deal with it, how to live with it, how to invest in these kind of environments, because it could be the future we're all looking at right now.
Yes, definitely. And the second book is the Lewis Mumford book, The City and History. This is an old book. This is also quite old. 1974 was when it was released, before the AIDS pandemic. 6 years before the AIDS pandemic came about, this was released, and actually predicted something like the AIDS pandemic And the most recent addition to this was Ebola. But Ebola wasn't as big of a deal as COVID was. And this book,
Fortunately, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
If it happens now with this world, the way world is networked right now, we don't know.
We're in for a ride.
Yes.
But this is another seminal piece which talks about how a city goes, how you go from civilization to a city. And this book basically talks about a lot of the architecture which goes into it. Architecture not just in terms of buildings, but societal architecture, like how your society is stratified, how you have hierarchies in society, in cities especially, how you have slums developing, how you have slums funding the upper elite who end up building skyrise apartments. So when this book was written, you didn't really have a lot of buildings which were over 20, 30 floors on average. But this sort of book predicts all of that. And it talks about how for one Ambani, you'd need an entire slum to be able to fund one of those areas. So think about the house help, where you get your house help from. You need those communities living right next to you. It's not something where you can just relegate them to somewhere else in your city. They have to live right next to the richest parts, which makes the disparity extremely large. And this book sort of champions that, and it goes into history. It goes all the way from the Renaissance. It goes towards the Mesopotamian civilization, one of the earliest civilizations, and it looks at Egypt. It looks at all of these other, ancient cities, Babylon, and it comes into talking about how these cities developed. So in the description itself, it says it goes from Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, Middle Ages, and to the modern world. And it doesn't accept destiny as congested metropolitan cities, but it also acts as a manual to sort of talk about how cities can be better planned. And with India in its developing stage, with cities forming about without any central planning, so to speak, look at cities like Bangalore. Only now have people been clued into the idea that you need to plan out how a city is developing, which is why Bangalore traffic, which is infamously what everyone talks about, they say the weather's great, the traffic is bad. And part of that is because city planning needs to be improved. And a lot of you live in Chennai. And if you look at Chennai's history as a city, it was actually built by the British for the sake of British needs. So if you look at all the administrative buildings, it's along the coast. If you look at the High Court, you can look at the LIC buildings. So LIC buildings, it's an important building because insurance is a big proponent of a city. And if you look at all your other old administrative buildings, they're in and around the coast. So this is where the British came in, and they wanted all of the administrative buildings over there, and all the sewage system and drainage systems. We've inherited that from the British. So this is a very interesting history, and I definitely recommend this book to sort of understand the history of the city you live in and how we can imagine a better city in the future. What do you think about it?
And this is not only true for cities. If you blow up to the scale of countries, you can see it. There's the same problem with migrants in Europe, the same problems the Israelis have with the Palestinians. They like the Palestinians to be there at the same time for the simple reason, when the conflict is not there, most of the cheap labor for Israelis come from Gaza. Most of the Palestinians are allowed to cross the border from Gaza and West Bank and come and work inside Israel because they need cheap labor. Because Israelis have become such an affluent society, they move forward so far, they built themselves up into such a big economy and modernize themselves so much. Most of Israelis don't like doing the menial work anymore, like how Americans want the Mexicans to come and pick their fruits, but don't want the Mexicans to stay there.
Yeah.
They just want them to cross the border, do the work,
and then
take your money and quickly leave.
Yeah.
The same thing is the problem with Europe. So this kind of shows you cannot have one without the other. It's a symbiotic relationship. So as you need labor, the rich do not want, the Ambanis do not want the ghetto right next to their house because it spoils their view. But at the same time, they need the labor to be there. Yeah. And this same problem existed in black South Africa and white South Africa, where they had different parts of society carved out, but they'll send buses to ferry back and forth the black labor force which they needed for this menial work to be done.
Yes.
So this kind of disparity is there in society. You cannot get rid of it, but the imbalances, if they're reduced, and if it's not so lopsided, our society will function better.
Definitely. And on that note, let's go into Open Societies by Karl Popper. This book has been talked about quite a bit by my other uncle. And we talk about George Soros quite a bit. And this book was what inspired George Soros to be the man he is today. And George Soros keeps citing Karl Popper because of his theory of fallibility and falsifiability. And George Soros bases his entire financial history upon the theory of falsifiability. So he says that economics and finance is not a discipline like the sciences, where you can just falsify something and you basically are good to go. You don't have scientific theories, so to speak, in economics. And it's he believes that it leads you to very false conclusions and almost absurd conclusions when you look at theories in this scientific sort of lens in the sociology subjects. And this book particularly talks about tolerance, and it talks about a society where a democratic society where you have multiple opinions and views and no one is persecuted for their opinions and views. And this is something which Karl Popper champions. And yeah, it's definitely a good read for those of you who are interested in political philosophy, as well as those of you who are interested in George Soros and want to see what made George Soros the man he is today. Yeah,
I agree. And this problem which Sashwath was talking is true in economics, and more of the hard sciences are also slowly figuring this out, because as you get into quantum physics or even quantum chemistry, the observer plays a big role. That biases of the observing the experiment itself becomes part of the experiment. So there's no way you can observe an experiment without an observer. In quantum physics, it was realized as a big problem a few decades back, and they're still trying to figure out how to do this. This is also true in what George Soros is basically saying. You cannot have a system without the humans involved in it if it's a human system. So economics is a human system, and any human system is a social science, because human beings don't follow rules and regulations according to an equation. We go to whims and fancies of our emotion, and that's what basically philosophy is all about.
Right. And finally coming into, and some of these reads might be a little dense, so I suggest that this might be an easier read than these two. So if you guys want to read something, I'd suggest you go with that one first. And finally, you have Hernando de Soto, whose book is The Mystery of Capital. And this is another conversation we were having on our way back to the studio. And we were talking about those who control capital are the ones who basically mold society. And even if they don't actively mold society themselves to their will, society molds itself around these people who control capital. And what do I mean by control capital? Control capital is in the sense that those who decide who gets capital and who doesn't. They basically decide what projects get funded, what kind of infrastructure gets funded, and who gets access to money and who doesn't get access to money. And this book talks about why capitalism as a method has triumphed over communism and all your other offshoots of political governance. And communism, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure all of you know what communism is. Communism basically stipulates that everyone's on an equal footing. No one should have more than what they need. And the idea of from those who are able to those who are in need. That's the idea of communism. Socialism is a step below communism, where it talks about the government in place acts as a method to redistribute wealth. That's sort of socialism in a nutshell. And capitalistic democracy, which talks about the free markets and having capital go to the hands whoever can afford it through the invisible hand of Adam Smith. The invisible hand idea being that, the market works in and of itself. You don't need someone to come in and say, this is where we need to put it in. We don't need a central planning agency. We just need the market to function as it will. And this book talks about why capitalism works in certain places and why communism failed. And definitely must read when you want to understand the geopolitical scenario of our time and better understand the debate between socialism, communism, and capitalism, considering that we don't have many truly communist countries anymore. And I wouldn't say the USSR was truly communist.
I also would say we don't really have truly capitalistic countries anymore either. We have all these quasi-countries.
Yes.
Because even if you see in the US, which is supposed to be the most forward-thinking in terms of capitalism and free market, there also liberals can push the government to a point where non-capitalistic ideas are taken.
Like minimum wage.
Yes. Minimum wage, forgiving student debt. Things which doesn't make sense in terms of capital market, they are encouraged to take upon. So this is very true. And also realize, though it sounds, the book says like the rich are the ones who decide who gets the money, who gets to move forward. It's true the other way around, as Sashwath was saying. we as society also coalesce around people who have money because we need access to that money. Basically, it's two societies we have. We have one society which wants immediate gratification, another one which is able to forego immediate gratification, and there's a tug of war between these two factions in society, creating the plethora of different isms we have in our society today.
Definitely. And so these are some of, there are more books, of course, and depending on what you guys think about this video, we can definitely discuss about those books as well. But these are some of the books on my list, which I'm reading right now. And I thought this would be a good video for them to also sort of see what we're working with.
Correct. And I hope you're able to see all the titles of the books visible. That's why this time I made Sashwath bring them to us and keep them for the entire duration of the video in front of us as a wall, as a barrier for me and Sashwath to hide behind. Anyway, thank you for watching the video today. I hope you found it informative and entertaining as always. And do subscribe to the channel and share this video with friends and family who you think like this content. And I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Those who are desirous of meeting me can meet me in Kuwait on the 24th of November, the last Friday of November. After a successful meeting in Hyderabad, my team wanted to do an event in the Gulf again. It has been decided to do it in Kuwait, and hence I am there on the 24th of November, the Friday. Thank you. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.